Hello and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, a conversation of ideas. This week we have a very special edition coming to you from San Francisco, where I'm joined by Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. Mr. Goyal, you've had a packed schedule in the United States. There are two big economic meetings happening, and you're here for the idea of India in the sense that India is the place to be. What's been the big message? Because of course APEC, India is not a member of it, but you're here as a guest. India has been invited for the first time. What is the big message you're giving?
Well, I think very clearly the world is looking at India and the way India's leadership has emerged over the last few years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, recognized today as truly a world leader of substance, somebody people respect immensely, look up to his leadership, is reflected in our engagements at the APEC, at IPEF. They are all looking up to India to contribute in a big way for a safe, secure Indo-Pacific region. They are all looking at India as the growth engine of the world economy. And my engagements with different leaders here, my meetings with my counterparts, with industry, captains of industry, all demonstrate very clearly the excitement about working with India, working in India, and the expectations that are today quite large from the India story.
It's interesting because of course India isn't a part of APEC, yet we've been invited for the first time. Do you think India needs to be part of APEC sooner rather than later? And of course the geopolitics, given that President Xi has come to the US after 5 years to attend this summit. You've said that the India-US relationship has nothing to do with what many say is the China plus one strategy of the United States.
I'm very convinced that today India stands on its own feet. India is a compelling case for investment. It's a compelling partnership based on trust, which we are forging with different countries. And while we are now very actively engaged with IPEF, we haven't applied our mind to joining up with APEC at the present moment, but it's been nice to be formally invited. Prime Minister Modi would have come, but for the elections going on in India. But clearly the respect that India is getting from the United States of America, from their leaders, from the other countries around the world, reflects the growing importance of India as a country, and the huge adulation, I can say, that I see amongst the leaders when they talk about Prime Minister Modi.
How closely is India watching the meeting which just happened with President Xi and President Biden? And what would you say about this China plus one strategy? Do you agree with it at all?
Well, that's an internal matter between the US and China, and we wish them well. We have no reason to watch that meeting, as you're saying. But more importantly, across the world there is a recognition that there should be more resilient supply chains. Across the world, businesses are concerned about their experiences of the recent past. They are also very concerned about transparency, about opaque business practices, about and the big value that democracy brings to the table. Mm-hmm. In all those respects, and when you have an overlay of the cost of doing business, where India today stands out as a very, very attractive destination, I think India will be an important partner in supply chains, more for the trust that they have in our abilities. Just before this interview, I had a conversation with a large semiconductor company who has big operations in India. And he told me that they're almost like an Indian company now. They have 15,000 highly qualified, highly paid engineers working in India doing cutting-edge technology work, R&D work, innovation, design, and they're super excited about it. They have aggressive plans to grow the business there.
So for American companies, it's made in India because so many of the engineers are from India. But you visited the Tesla factory, and I think you made that point that you were excited to see that the number of components they import from India is going to double. You were excited to see the number of Indian engineers there. But the big question, Bloomberg just reported that India is considering perhaps a tax holiday or tax cuts on fully assembled electric vehicles to come in for the first 5 years. Any confirmation of that?
Please don't buy the stories that you see on news channels
That's
or
why I'm
news
asking
media
you.
all the time. My visit was primarily around meeting the Tesla team, many of whom are Indians and have done us proud. It was also to discuss their plans about an increasing India element in their supply chain, and I'm really immensely pleased at their plans to double their imports from India. And going forward, they're really looking at very aggressive plans along with reputed auto component manufacturers in India. There are many other discussions which are always there on the table. But for the present, the meeting was focused on what we can do to be an important element of their supply chain.
But this is actually a proposal made by Elon Musk earlier in 2021 that give us some kind of tax holiday and incentive to come in. Is that something the government will consider seriously?
Very clearly, we would like to see a lot more happening in the electric vehicle ecosystem in India. You can see that we are adopting EVs very fast. The two-wheeler industry, for example, is seeing nearly 40% of two-wheelers being sold in India being electric. Going forward, I think on commercial vehicles, whether it's buses, trucks, or even passenger cabs, it's a no-brainer to use electric vehicles. It's much more economical and eco-friendly. Yes. On passenger vehicles, I think the battery costs are a deterrent, and we are seeing that rapidly correcting itself. And I do think that in the years ahead, the EV ecosystem in India is going to grow rapidly. Probably the fastest ramp up you'll see in the next 10 years of electric vehicles will happen in India. So I suspect all the countries around the world would like to come to India. We have good domestic manufacturing capability on electric vehicles already. Government has bought a lot of electric vehicles also. I see them all over the place in the private sector.
So you're not willing to go down that road of tax cuts? You're not thinking of that yet because you think our market is big enough?
I think we'll talk to all the players and have a conversation with other electric vehicle manufacturers both in India and across the world and come up with a cogent policy which will support the electric vehicle ecosystem. My own sense is electric vehicles have come to stay. They are very good for us in terms of our environment efforts to clean up the environment, our fight against climate change, our commitments to reduce import of crude oil, which will significantly help the Indian economy. Yes. So it's a multifarious benefit that we get from the electric vehicle ecosystem. And just imagine if we cut down the $100 billion of oil imports into the country, and we would have a trade surplus every year.
Exactly.
And India would be a growth story like unparalleled in history.
You know, and one interesting aspect has been because so often geopolitics takes matters really out of any country's planning. So we've seen that with the ban on the export of rice because of what happened in Ukraine. Now you've got what's happening in Israel and Palestine. How worried are you about looking, because of India's plan to become the third largest economy in a few years, how do you think these global conflicts are actually impacting India? And again, we talk about the voice of the global south, but India has differed quite significantly on the view on the conflict from many other countries of the global south.
At the outset, in terms of our growth trajectory, I think Prime Minister Modi has steered the Indian economy so beautifully, strengthening the macroeconomic fundamentals, creating a whole country of 140 crore aspirational Indians looking for a better quality of life, and the deep focus on infrastructure development. This trinity of actions is something which has helped India be poised for probably 3 or 4 decades of high growth rates. So in terms of India becoming the third largest economy, I don't think it will be more than 3 or 4 years down the road. So when Prime Minister Modi guarantees that in his third term, India will be the third largest economy, I think it's a no-brainer. It's 100% there. We will make it happen. And his decisive leadership, his commitment to growth, his commitment to encouraging investments in India is recognized and respected across the world today. Today I met many large investors running some of the world's largest investment funds, and their investment plans are huge into the country. I in fact threw a couple of numbers at one or two of those companies, and every case they said, no, this is not our ambition, it's much bigger. So I think India is poised to get there to the third largest economy and then beyond. On your other point about the geopolitical situation, first of all, let me clarify, any of our bans are not because we are unable to meet the needs of others. It's just to ensure that the greed of some unscrupulous business persons or traders does not cause international prices to go crazily high. So in effect, our bans are more to keep prices both in India and in other less developed countries or emerging markets stable. We do provide rice or other food grains to all our friendly countries, to all our deserving partners, particularly the less developed countries, which is at affordable prices and helps them maintain price stability. So more cases than not, our restrictions on export are directed towards channelizing the available material or food grains for global good, rather than allowing it to become a matter of profiteering by certain businesses. And to your third point about our views on the geopolitical situation, I think we have great clarity in our thinking. Prime Minister Modi is on record to condemn terrorism in all its form, anywhere in the world. And India has suffered from terrorism for years. We have been at the receiving end. I mean, almost until we removed Article 370 and 35A from the statute in Kashmir, we would have terrorism rearing its head on a daily basis. It's only in the last 4.5 years that we've finally found peace in Kashmir, except for that sporadic incident. Having said that, I think we believe in the two-nation theory. We believe there should be a cessation of hostilities. We have supported the last UN resolution. And India has had a very consistent stand. A, against terrorism. B, against peaceful coexistence. Dialogue and diplomacy is the way forward. War can never be a solution.
The interesting point you made on Prime Minister Modi's guarantees for the third term of this government. Well, the opposition would say that this is perhaps hubris, already predicting a result too early, and the opposition charge would be that the Modi government or ministers are making the poor get poorer and the rich get richer, and this is part of that narrative. How do you think this is going to play out at a time when you're also going to be hitting election season almost as soon as you land in Delhi?
First of all, it's not at all arrogance or hubris, as you mentioned. It's realism. And Prime Minister Modi's popularity is there for everyone to see. If you look back at 2018, I'm on record on more than one occasion. And that was not just an astrological prediction.
I remember you did call it out. Yes.
It was based on the love and affection we saw in the people we met. It was based on the extensive surveys that had been done. And clearly, even when you go out there into the hinterland, into the villages of India, into the remotest corners of the country, the adulation, the love, the affection, the respect that Prime Minister Modi commands, the expectations, the positivity that is generated the moment they find out that you are a member of his team is truly heartwarming. And if at all anybody is trying to spread the narrative of the poor getting poorer, it's pretty silly, because I think never before in India's history has anybody bothered to care for the poor as much as Prime Minister Modi in the last 9 years.
The free food grain
I'm sorry,
cross.
look at every element of his work, whether it was the Jan Dhan Mobile Aadhaar Trinity, which helped us get transfer of benefits to the poor directly, without middlemen, without the Rajiv Gandhi days where 15% would reach the poor and 85% would go to congressmen and middlemen and into corruption by the Congress leaders. I think we are very proud that we have sent almost 30 lakh crores to the people of India directly into their bank account, with not a single instance of corruption or any leakage in the system. We're very proud that something which should have happened maybe 75 years ago has happened in Mr. Modi's term, that every single home has a toilet, every home is connected with electricity, every corner of the country has digital connectivity, something you don't even find in the United States, as good as you can find in India.
The signal here is much worse.
Water is reaching every home through a tap. Half of the country done, the other half will be finished in another couple of years.
But I just wanted to ask you on that, because I know, of course, how politically attuned you are even while you're sitting here, because, of course, you're the leader in the Rajya Sabha. You've got a winter session coming up soon, and also Madhya Pradesh voting, a key state for the BJP. Just going so far by opinion polls, surveys on news channels, that the expectation seems to be of pollsters or political analysts that the BJP is losing Madhya Pradesh, losing Chhattisgarh, winning Rajasthan. Mizoram is unclear, and Telangana, it's not the BJP which is giving the fight, but the Congress to the BRS.
Well, I think very clearly what we see on the ground, what I have seen on television or on X, formerly Twitter, lends me to believe that the tide has turned in Chhattisgarh, and we are very, very clearly ahead of the Congress in Chhattisgarh. Madhya Pradesh, even before I left India, was very clearly coming back to the BJP. I myself have had extensive visits both in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Rajasthan is looking to be a one-sided affair. We are doing extremely well in Rajasthan. Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh are poised to give us a BJP government. Telangana is pretty far off into the future. Voting is on the 30th. I have had only 1 or 2 visits to Telangana. As I get back and connect more with the ground and with the people, I'll probably get a better sense of what's happening. But clearly the 3 states which I have been able to go and campaign in, and where I have experienced firsthand the mood on the ground, are positively getting the BJP government back. Chhattisgarh initially didn't look like we were in the race, but it's probably one of the fastest turnaround in an election that I have seen, where it swung significantly in our favor.
Well, I'll play this back after the results, but just to ask why this state-center dichotomy? Because, of course, remember 5 years ago, the BJP actually lost these states and yet came back with a record margin in the Lok Sabha elections. Why is there this state-center dichotomy? The Karnataka loss, do you think that has led to some message that you can vote differently in the states and differently in Lok Sabha in the larger context?
It's always happened in politics. So very often by-elections, for example, they give a different result from what the mood of the nation is. Very often, if you look back at 2018 also, the predictions were made after we lost all the elections. It was very clear that people were looking up to Mr. Modi to give decisive, strong leadership, to get a corruption-free India in place. Women empowerment has been very much a part of his agenda all through the 9.5 years of government. And the delivery of empowerment to the last man, to everybody in the country without discrimination. Koi bhedbhav nahi hua. Everybody, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, whether they voted for the BJP or not.
Just to ask, what I think really was interesting, the surprise the BJP threw when many MPs are actually back there fighting assembly elections. Are many ministers from the Rajya Sabha going to be fighting elections? Are you going to be fighting an election in 24?
I think that's for the party to decide. This is the strength of the BJP. We are a party of Karyakartas. We all work for the party with a mission. And for us, it's not about the role you are in today. It's a commitment to the nation. It's a commitment to our party. And whatever decision the leadership takes, I think we all are a part of that decision as loyal soldiers of the party. So I'm really proud that some of our MPs, some of our ministers are also fighting the state elections. It clearly demonstrates to the country and to the people of these states that this is a party where power is not the end game, service is paramount.
Mr. Goyal, thank you for taking all questions and being part of the NDTV dialogues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.